So this is a stomach slide. And so here, this whole area up here, this is the mucosa. What we're seeing down here, these things right here are actually blood vessels. So that tells us we're in the submucosa down here. Now the very bottom of the mucosa down here, there's a little muscle here. This is called the muscularis mucosa. It's at the very bottom of that mucosa. So we go back up to the top here. What you're seeing here is these tubes. You're seeing them all over the place actually, but here they show up really well. These tubes right there, those are the gastric glands. And then the openings into this gastric glands, which we can see here and down here as well, those are known as the gastric pits. So the gastric pit is the opening, and then the rest of this is a gastric gland. Now I moved the slide a little bit. Still up here is the mucosa, still here is the submucosa, but now what we can see here, this is the muscularis externa, and the layer of the muscularis externa that is close to the submucosa is a circular layer. So if we're close to that submucosa there, we are in the circular layer of the muscularis externa. Now I've moved the slide again, and so now we're at the very bottom of the wall of the stomach. And so this bottom layer here is the serosa. So all this just that thin layer there, that bottom layer is the serosa. So this is the muscular layer again, so this is all muscularis externa. But since we're close to serosa, if we put a pin, put a pointer here, this would be the muscularis externa longitudinal layer. So this is a slide of the small intestine, or the jejunum, which is the middle portion of the small intestine. And so everything we can see here in this darker area, that is the mucosa. All right, so all of this here is the mucosa. This layer right there, that is the submucosa. And then this layer here and here, that is the muscularis externa. Right, so this part of the muscularis externa, that is the circular layer. So the muscularis externa circular layer, and then this out here, that's the muscularis externa longitudinal layer. And then that dark purple line essentially at the very edge there, that is the serosa. So let's move back now into the mucosa area. And then we can see all these like little tubes here. Each one of those tubes is an intestinal gland. And then we can see these structures sticking out here and here and here. Each one of those is a velus, or veli is plural, velus is singular. So let's look at these at a higher magnification. So this is looking at the velus at a much higher magnification. So now we're on high power. And we see on the edge here of velus, this layer and this layer, both of those are simple cuboidal epithelial tissues. Okay, so that's simple cuboidal epithelium. And what kind of gives us away is these are goblet cells here. And the goblet cells show up really well with that simple cuboidal or simple columnar epithelium. This tissue that's in the middle right here, this is the lamina propria. So this, all that in the middle there is a lamina propria. So this is a liver slide, and when we look at the liver slide, we're seeing these lobules. So this is a lobule here, here's another lobule there, here's another lobule there, okay? So we see those separations between those lobules. The structure that we see, most of the time we're going to see it in the middle of a lobule. Here it's kind of off to the side, but that is the central vein. So that's the central vein, this is the central vein. And then all these little kind of crack-like looking structures that we're seeing here, those are called sinusoids. So each of those kind of looks like cracks there. Those are the sinusoids. We've moved up to a higher power now, so this is on medium power, and we can see there's a lobule there, there's a lobule there, there's a lobule there. Here's our central vein once again, and once again, all these cracks are the sinusoids. And then here in these areas kind of between these lobules, we're going to find what is known as called a hepatic triad. So we're going to look at that under high power. So here we're seeing one of those hepatic triads. So these three things here is what we're looking at. This is a vein. Veins have very thin walls on the sides of them. Here's an artery. They're smaller, but they have thicker walls. And then right here, we're seeing a common bile duct. So this is a hepatic artery. This is a hepatic portal vein over here. And this is a common bile duct. You can see the cells that make up the wall of that common bile duct. Let's move to another area and see another one of these. So I just moved to a new area here. Once again, we can see there's a hepatic portal vein, very thin walls. We're actually seeing two arteries right here. So both of those are hepatic arteries there. And once again, we have a common bile duct right there. You can see the cells that make up the walls of that.